Since World War II, Americans have been vacationing and working in foreign countries in ever-increasing numbers. The ease and swiftness of transportation throughout the world and the rise in international commerce have helped send between 20 and 30 million Americans abroad each year since 1981. About 4 million citizens travel to Mexico annually, and with strong cultural ties to Europe, more than 6 million Americans have traveled to that continent each year during this decade. For the vast majority of travelers, the greatest problems they encounter are flight cancellations or delays or misplaced luggage. Hello, I'm Paul Anthony. All too often, travelers abroad have problems simply because they're in a holiday mood, or they're unfamiliar with their surroundings, or they fail to use the same common sense precautions they would use in their own hometowns. The State Department has some suggestions on how you can reduce the chances of problems during your trip abroad. Before departing on your trip, make a photocopy of your important documents to take with you and keep it separate from your valuables, your passport identification page, airline ticket, major credit cards, driver's license, and the serial numbers of your traveler's checks. Check to see if your insurance policy covers you for accident or illness abroad, and make photocopies of your itinerary to leave with a relative or friend. If it changes, notify them. The State Department alerts U.S. citizens to adverse conditions in foreign countries by issuing travel warnings or advisories explaining problems that might be encountered. For this information, you can telephone the State Department Citizens Emergency Center in Washington, D.C. at area code 202-647-5225. These advisories are widely distributed to airlines, travel agents, and other organizations, as well as the news media. Advisories, as do U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. The U.S. Public Health Service has reported few health problems in foreign countries in recent years, but they do crop up from time to time in remote regions. Consult the Public Health Service for recommendations on vaccinations and other health safeguards when traveling to foreign countries. Civil unrest is another problem of foreign travel. Before leaving home, determine if there is stability in the places you will visit. If not, you might want to postpone your trip or change your itinerary. Thank you. When traveling abroad, you may encounter various types of hazards. One of them is theft, so try not to look affluent. It's a good idea to dress down, not up. Leave gold chains and other jewelry at home or keep them in the hotel safe. Thieves watch for people who flash large amounts of cash when paying bills, so rely as much as possible on traveler's checks and credit cards. Avoid loud or impolite behavior or clothing that will draw attention to you as a likely target for criminals, terrorists, and others bent on anti-American actions. Motorcyclists in some cities cruise the streets looking for easy targets. Don't walk next to the curb. If a thief attempts to grab your valuables, don't resist. It is not worth being hurt. When checking into a hotel or presenting identification for a financial transaction, be discreet when showing your passport. It is a valuable commodity on the black market. Report its loss immediately to the U.S. Embassy or consulate and to local authorities. If you rent a car, choose one that is popular in the country you are visiting, rather than one that will stand out. Don't leave your luggage or valuables in your car, and always lock it when it is unattended. Under cover of night, cars parked on the street become easy prey to criminals. Therefore, try to keep your car in a hotel parking garage. Travelers sometimes run afoul of the local laws. About 2,700 Americans are arrested each year in foreign countries and about 1,400 Americans are currently serving time in foreign jails. In many cases, they were convicted for use or possession of illegal drugs. In most countries, conviction on a drug charge carries a prison sentence of 2 to 10 years, and in a few, the death penalty. Banks, hotels, and other authorized agents are the only places that money can be legally exchanged in most countries. Don't be tempted by the black market's higher exchange rates, cut-rate airline tickets, or souvenirs. In the U.S., foreign tourists wander freely about our cities, and even some military bases taking snapshots. Anything they see is fair game for a photograph. Not so in some countries, such as those in Eastern Europe, which are particularly sensitive to tourists photographing bridges, airports, military installations, and railroad stations. While citizens and visitors alike feel free to criticize U.S. government policies and officials, in some foreign countries you can be arrested for such criticism. It's best, therefore, to avoid all political discussions with people you do not know. Don't become caught up in political demonstrations. If you see one forming, stifle your curiosity and move away. Insofar as possible, avoid dangerous areas in cities. Traveling on backcountry roads can be picturesque, but also hazardous. Never stop for hitchhikers. Be cautious when encountering an automobile accident. Travelers have stopped to help what appeared to be the victim of an auto wreck, only to find it had been staged by criminals. Statistics show that Americans are more likely to be struck by lightning than they are to become victims of terrorism. But just as one should take steps to reduce the risk of being on the receiving end of a lightning bolt, there are measures travelers should take to lessen their chances of becoming victims of terrorism. Keeping abreast of the local news will help you keep informed about such events as political rallies and demonstrations that might lead to civil disturbance. For Americans traveling abroad, terrorism is a serious concern. While terrorist acts have been committed by one radical group or another for many years, only recently have Americans and U.S. property become targets of attack. The American Embassy can advise for more than 2 weeks. Register with the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate. The bomb is the most frequently used weapon of terrorists. But unlike this one, they are usually disguised. This ordinary suitcase is also a bomb. Be wary of unattended luggage or packages, and never leave your own luggage unattended. Your chance of being involved in an incident can be reduced if you reduce the amount of time spent at airline terminals. Try to book direct, non-stop flights and spend as little time as possible in the terminal. Try to avoid long check-in lines. Move out of the high-risk area as quickly as possible by checking through airport security immediately upon arrival and going directly to your gate. Some airlines offer the additional safeguard of their own security checkpoints. When you arrive at your destination, leave the terminal as soon as possible. Caught on a terrorist incident, don't panic. The odds are heavily in your favor of being released unharmed. Here are some things you can do to further improve those odds. If shooting breaks out, immediately drop to the ground and remain as still as possible until you are sure the threat is over. If you are the victim of a takeover of a building or airliner, don't resist. Keep calm. Don't make sudden movements. If questioned, keep your answers short and don't volunteer information. And don't appear as though you are memorizing your captors' faces. Try to avoid direct eye contact. If your period of captivity is drawn out, attempt to establish a rapport with your captors. Talk about your family, but avoid discussing politics or religion. If authorities try to rescue you, get down and stay down until the rescuer tells you it's safe. Let us just reiterate a few important points. Make a photocopy of your itinerary, passport ID page, airline ticket, credit cards, and leave heirlooms at home. Consult the State Department about conditions in the places you plan to visit and take appropriate precautions. Try not to look affluent. Dress down, not up, and blend in with the local populace. Be aware of the possibility of theft and use caution. Know the local laws and obey them. Avoid illegal or risky situations. Be suspicious of unattended suitcases and packages. And if you have a problem, there are over 250 U.S. embassies and consulates ready to help. As I said earlier, the biggest problems you'll probably have to cope with are flight delays and misdirected luggage. Be alert to your surroundings and take common sense precautions. If you have a question before you travel, or if you encounter a problem during your trip, contact consular officers at the State Department or abroad. They've been in the business of helping people travel more safely for over 200 years. So have a good trip and a safe one.
Thank you.
Thank you.